Good evening. Hi. For those who are able, would you mind standing and doing the Pledge of Allegiance with us, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a quorum, so I will call this meeting to order. Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mrs. Wielden. So as we always start our meetings, reading our mission, vision, and reiterating our core beliefs. Our vision is that BCSC is the choice to learn, work, and play. Our mission is to develop expert learners by partnering with our community to invest in people. And our core beliefs are that we can rise to the challenge, we all can rise to the challenge of high expectations. Learning is most effective when we have choice, flexibility, and see relevance. We thrive when our physical, social, and psychological needs are met. Our community and school district are stronger when we partner with one another. We flourish because of the diversity and variability in our community. And our democracy and democratic institutions are strengthened by civic-minded citizens.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips.
Thank you.
I think we get to start tonight with a few recognitions, if you'd like to tee those up.
That's right, absolutely. We'd love to. Speaking of thriving and flourishing, we have two students that we are going to recognize, one of whom was able to be here this evening and the other was not. But thank you for Mr. Lewis from North for coming and helping us recognize these students.
Thanks, Dr. Phillips, and congratulations on your new position. We just always want to appreciate the fact that you guys allow us to come here and get recognized for our accomplishments as we do the right thing at Columbus North High School. I think it's important for our community to support us, and I think you guys do a great job at that. I'm going to get out the way and I'll let Coach Sluter speak about our athlete.
Yeah, I want to echo what Mr. Lewis said. It's really fun to get to come here. It kind of makes you feel important for a few minutes and get to tell you guys thank you for your support. Karis Glenn Jones ran two events at the state meet. She ran the 1600 and then came back later in the evening and placed sixth in the 800 meter run. And she ran 2 minutes and 11 seconds, which is now our school record. She broke her school record by over 3 seconds. So she had a fantastic event. And just to give you guys an idea of how good her time was, she was sixth in this race, but it would have won over half the girls' state finals in IHSA history. So she had a phenomenal race, and we got her back for a whole nother year. And so we're very excited, and we want to thank you guys for having us out tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Sluter. Do you want to, well, first let's recognize Karis. And you want to say a few words about Catherine, even though she's not here? Just her accomplishment was pretty outstanding.
For sure. So Catherine won single state 2 years in a row, which it's never been done in the history of Columbus North athletics. She's now at Purdue. Her oldest sister goes to Purdue, so like she's actually traveling right now, playing with Purdue University, basically to get better. And it's just a great accomplishment for me to see her play and how well she does when she's out there competing against the other kids in the state. So thank you.
Thank you. You guys come on this way. Be in the picture. Mr. Bryant. So the key is they got to keep scooping. You got to be on this side of that tape. How is that the visibility? Tape of visibility.
Check the photos. You took the stuff. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Very good. Congratulations.
Let's see how that turns out.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have a school board member report. We do have an appeal. So we have appeal review committee's decision regarding a CEHS library book push. I have a copy of that book here with us. It's been provided to the board. So the way this process works is anyone who would like to contest a book in the library submits a form. There's a review committee. In the event that committee decides to uphold the book being in the library, the requester can escalate that to the board, and then we formally acknowledge that escalation at the next public board meeting, which would be tonight. Okay, we have 60 days with which to make a decision. It gives us time to collect information, make an informed decision, and then that decision will take place in our board meeting on September 9th. Okay, here we go. Thank you. Cabinet reports.
Thank you, Ms. Wielden. Our first cabinet report is coming from Mr. Williams and his team, and your new platform for both the board to access materials and agendas for these meetings, as well as the public. So for the first time this last week, anyone in the public could get on the Board Docs platform and see the agenda and also some of the materials related. Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Good evening. Thank you for your time tonight. So I am going to just briefly let everyone know about a new system that we have, and it's not really a new system because Board Docs has housed our policy for a long time. We're just expanding that use to include all board activities. So, and again, it's open for everyone. So all BCSC board activities will be in this website now, but that includes the agendas, documents, school board member information, our policies, as they've always been, and meeting minutes. So if you picked up an agenda tonight, it may look a little different because Sherry and a team is working diligently to have agendas now in Board Docs. So there will be some changes that you will notice, and some other nice features about using Board Docs more fully, I guess, is that you get to customize security for access. So board members will have privileges to see documents that won't be available to the public, and the same as cabinet. We're able to add the YouTube stream to the agendas pretty quickly. We feel that we're able to post things in the library for public, just kind of viewing before it may become official, and then they will always be there. And it's accessible anywhere on any device. We will keep the website open right now. That still has all of the agendas and minutes from past meetings, but moving forward, this is where you can find everything. So I did just a quick video. There's no words in here, but or at least no sound, but you can go from the main website and get to Board Docs under the school board information. And again, there's lots of information still on the website, but the link at the top, which I'm scrolling to in the video, takes you directly to Board Docs, and it will go to the featured page, so you can see events there. You can go to board member pages, which are identical to the website right now. And I'd imagine that this will evolve as we get more use, but the meeting minutes are in there as well. You can get there under meetings or from that featured page and click through the agenda, and you'll notice there's icons in there with the documents that are attached to each agenda item. And again, this would be the public view, so you're able to see exactly what is coming up at a board meeting. Policies will be in the same location as well, and then that library is where the board member information is. Okay. So, moving forward, we will have the agendas posted there. The statute's 48 hours before a board meeting, not including Saturday, Sunday, so we hope to have those up at least by Thursday before the board meetings on Monday. And with that, we'll take any questions.
Team, any questions?
Is the intent of the platform to be able to allow the public to have access prior to the meeting? So when they're doing public comment, they would already have the kind of similar visibility that we have, except for stuff that's restricted to the executive access?
Yes, and again, I think there's lots of features that we'll uncover as we get more used to it, but yeah.
I just want to, in that case, just say thank you for your team.
And generally speaking, Nick, when is material posted ahead of a board meeting?
So to the public, it has to be 48 hours before the board meeting, not including Saturday and Sunday. So it has to be posted by Thursday night, but the goal is to have it up there at least by the morning, if not earlier.
And that's just the notification of the meeting. The only thing legally required is notification of the meeting. We've always published an agenda on that Thursday to the public, but this actual last week on Wednesday, any of the non-confidential materials in the board meeting were also accessible to the public on Wednesday, midday Wednesday, before the end of the day. We're going to work on a cycle and land. We won't be any later than we were before on Thursday afternoons with the information going to the public, but we're going to work on making that as early as possible and getting in a good flow of when people can expect to have those materials publicly available. And eventually we will get all of the, not all, but at least the most recent past minutes and agendas in the links to those in the board docs too, so that you don't have to go to two different places to find it, but that'll take us a while.
Yes.
So will this, I guess, how will this be shared with parents and families and the public so that they know it's out there and where to find it? I think it's great that it's there, but sometimes locations that are obvious to us are not always obvious to. Actually, sometimes things that are obvious to other people aren't even obvious to me where they're located.
Well, our generous communication coordinators volunteered to come up here.
It's a great question, Dale. I know that we've already spoken with the Republic about it, and so that's one avenue. Dr. Phillips recently did a great job as first interview as superintendent on WCSI. So we'll have a communications cycle for the public in that way, but also internally on Parent Square, as well as on our social media. And then it looks like Nick created a great how-to video that I can put on the website for people as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Williams, you just stay up there for the next one as you introduce the folks who are going to talk about our enrollment center changes coming up.
Yes, so we have some exciting news to share. We've come across this opportunity last year, toward the ends of last year, and been working diligently on it for quite a while now. But one of the things that we're hopefully able to offer families a more streamlined experience with is enrolling in BCSC. So I have an amazing team here. Brenny Coomer, the Assistant Director of Educational Technology, TJ Skinner, the Student Services Coordinator, are going to walk you through what they've been working on.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you, everyone, for giving us time to share tonight. We're very excited about these changes, and I want to give you a little bit of context for why we're enacting some of these changes for enrollment in BCSC. So our current state is that we want to make our families feel as welcome as possible, but it can be a little tricky, especially if you have students who are in multiple grade levels in multiple buildings. Currently, some of those families are having to go all across town, and if they don't have all of the paperwork at that initial meeting with the school, oftentimes they find themselves at our ISC, or Information Services Center, where sometimes we have to say, oh, you also need these forms to bring as well. So not the greatest first impression for our families. We want to make sure we give them as much information and support on the front end. In addition, we want to make sure that we can provide language support more consistently to our families for translation and any of those needs. So we've been working with our ML office and our new director, Nicole Leach, Dr. Nicole Leach, and making sure that this is something we can improve on and have interpreters on staff and on hand. So our idea is that we'll have a centralized one location for our families to enroll so that there's resources there, it's well staffed, and we can meet some of those needs of our families from day one before they even start at their school. So our plan is what TJ is going to talk about in our location.
All right, So I am TJ Skinner. I'm the Student Service Coordinator with BCSC. So this kind of got put under my umbrella because I have a team member retiring. So we trying to change things up. So student records and the Enrollment Center will be at CVP in the building on Beam Road. We've got everything moved in over there. We've got it set up and ready to go. We've got some signage being developed and stuff for the building so they'll be able to see. The 3 county schools that we have, because if you get just enrolling someone at Mount Healthy, if you only have 1 student, you don't want to come all the way into town. So Rock Creek, Mount Healthy, and Taylorsville will still be able to do walk-in enrollments, or the parent can also do it online if they like. We're going to leave that up to them. But if it's enrolling someone at North, Taylorsville, and maybe Northside, then they could just come in and do all 3 of them at once with the Enrollment Center. So that'll get us all, again, like Nicole Lynch, we've been working with her. She's got it all set up to have some support there with language and so forth. And that's what we've been trying to work through and get it all ready to go.
So on the screen, we have just some pictures. There's a really nice space at CVP that's large and open. It's wheelchair accessible, handicap accessible for our families, and we could really do a good job in advertising that location, which our amazing communications coordinator, there he is going to help us with that as well, and putting it on our website as well as social media and some of those channels so the public and the community are aware of that location change. So amongst some of those benefits, there are several others and reasons why we're doing this as well. By having TJ's team be the ones who are enrolling the students into our student information system, it's going to make it a little bit easier to have that consistent data entry versus all of our schools doing that on their own. We're also going to give back some of the time to the front office staff and the admin assistants who would be doing a lot of this data entry so that on that student's first day, they can spend time making those positive relationships with those families, welcoming to the school, meeting with counselors, setting up schedules for our high school and our middle school students, and spending time on that because we've already entered in some of their basic information into our student information system. In addition to that, as TJ had referenced, we're able to have our interpreters there. We've already developed a schedule with our ML office to have them available so that families can have the support and the information that they need. It's one location for families versus multiple places across town. We're also trying to make sure that we have as much communication on our website and social media about the required paperwork that families have to bring so that it's less trips back and forth for them. And it's a great way for us to share information with families about eye care and some of the other support and services, activities, clubs, athletics that we have in this district, and to really promote the opportunities and pathways. And we're open year round, which is nice. TJ's team is here summer during all of the breaks, so if a family wants to enroll, we're there and we're able to do that. So that is a little bit of a summary of our enrollment center. We're very excited to get this up and running. And if you have questions, we're here to address those, as many of them as we can. Thank you.
I will add too that the families, we're not scheduling students by any means. It's just getting through a lot of the state required paperwork. So they would still go to their schools to figure out what classes they would be taking.
Okay. Any questions? Yeah.
Depending on the age of the student, I know the answer might change a little bit, but once a family walks out of the enrollment process at Beam Road building has been completed, what would their next interaction with us be? Would it be a child getting on a bus? Or do they still need to go to the school the child's first day? How will that work?
So on the child's first day, so let's say it's elementary, they're going to be given a welcome letter. It's going to explain the first day, their address, phone number, who they're going to be in contact with. If that parent can take that student to school, then we'll give them the option of where to park, where to go in for the first day, and so forth. If they can't and they're a bus rider, then the school will know that they're a bus rider, they're going to be coming in, but the school will know on that first day what to expect and who's coming. We send an email out to the schools and let them brief description of that student, little notes I might pick up or my team picks up from that parent so they kind of know, Johnny's really nervous about the first day or so forth like that. So secondaries, they have schedules they have to meet with. So they get a call from the cohorts and get scheduled to go meet with them to do their scheduling, meet their counselors, meet the team and so forth like that. So that they will get that follow up from the secondaries.
Gotcha, thank you.
So I'm going to make an assumption here, but you can tell me if it's correct, that if there's summer enrollments, there would also be information about the different schools' open house times and that kind of thing?
Yeah, and the majority of these are still being done online. So it's also following up with families who've missed paperwork and pieces like that to get them fully enrolled.
Awesome. I appreciate the thoughtfulness on some of the remote schools and leaving that in-person option out there. That's very helpful. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the team? Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Dr. Bozeman is going to join us and share more updates on the Envision 2030 projects as they have been moving quickly throughout the summer.
Yes, good evening. Thank you for a few minutes of time here. The purpose of what I'll share with you will be an update on our phase one of our Envision 2030 projects. This will actually lead into some action that you will have as a board for resolutions for the 2024 lease rental bond coming up here in a bit. And I have Mr. Burton and Mr. Sprong with me behind me, way back over there, who will speak here in a couple of minutes about their experiences relative to their building. These first two slides you've seen before, but these are our project priorities for the 306 in total of all of our facility projects that we've advertised. The highlighted items here are those that we are addressing. Some are in portion, but that we're addressing within the first phase here of our Envision 2030 projects. I need to orient my eyes here on where to look, so I'll try this way. It's a little bit closer over there. This is our project schedule, so I won't speak to this in great detail, but I will provide a little more detail here on a slide that's coming up. Parkside and Schmidt are what we've called pre-Envision 2030 at the top. You're aware that Parkside Elementary is finishing here very soon. We have an open house and ribbon cutting. I'm not using the term open house. Sorry, we're going to use, I don't want people to get confused between the school's open house. So we're going to do a ribbon cutting and building tours on August 5th. Hope to see you there for that. Schmidt Elementary is underway and on schedule so far. Northside and Columbus North are paired together, and Smith and East are paired together. They are in design right now. That we'll speak to that here in just a bit, as well as the 12th Elementary. Phase one of the Johnson work. Maxwell Construction is the GC on that, and if you've driven by Johnson, you'll notice that construction and fencing is up and demo is underway there. And McDowell, Central, and Mount Healthy are to come here yet. The scope of the work, I've mentioned this a bit, but just as a reminder that the highlighted, the bolded items here are those that we're addressing currently within the phase one and why we're addressing those sites. And Central, McDowell, and Mount Healthy are those that are in phase one that we'll start working on here very soon. I'm going to have Mr. Burton come up here and speak to his experience a little bit. Let me explain what slide I'll have on the screen while these two gentlemen give their updates. First of all, before they, Casey Volz is also, she's a principal at Smith Elementary, as you know, and she's on a short little vacation now, so she would be here with us otherwise. But the three of them and their design teams and many others have had very short summers so far, spending a lot of time helping us move things along, keep on schedule. So very much appreciative of their time and effort. And these guys especially have done a lot of work, which I'm very appreciative of. So let me, these colors on the top here coordinate with the schedule you saw a moment ago. The programming and discovery phase and schematic design, that's where we are now. We're in schematic design to where our architects are working with the design teams to really identify what the spaces need to look like, how they need to function. I'll let them speak to that a bit. Design development is when CSO puts together those items that custodial closets and mechanical systems and these types of things to make sure the building functions well. And the construction documents, that's when things get buttoned up and construction documents go out for bid and things are pretty well set at that point. So I'd like to have Evan come up and speak to his experience here a little bit at Northside Middle School as they are currently in schematic design.
Thank you, Dr. Bozeman. It's always nice to be in front of you all, so appreciate the time this evening. Again, I'm their principal at Northside, Evan Burton. So we are, I would say, both feet in currently with where things stand. I've got a really good group of staff members at Northside. There's, counting me, 14 of us on our building design team, which is a large group for something like that, but Northside's a big building. It's been around for a while, and so I tried to do my best at getting a good representation of each area and each subject and each team and all the different facets of the Northside staff on that team. Luckily for me, the Northside staff is vocal in what they wish to see Northside at the end of all of this. And so we've had a couple of meetings with CSO, with our entire staff, which have been nice to get those feedback. And then my design team, like Dr. Bozeman said, has spent a good portion of the summer. We've seen lots of different buildings, both virtually and in person. And it was good from CSO. We were able to visit a couple of buildings that were renovations, not new builds. And so that's been important for us to see with, trying to keep Northside as unique and as school feeling as it is, plus make it function for what we need it to in this current day. We have standing every other week meetings with CSO right now as we are working through what are good ideas, what are maybe medium ideas, and what are ideas that we don't think will function as a design team. And that process will take care of the better part of this year and maybe into January. So that's where things stand currently. I'll turn it over to Mr. Sprong. Yep, turn it over to Mr. Sprong at this point.
Hi, I'm Darren Sprung, principal at Richards Elementary. I will get my glasses out to look at my notes. Evan set me up well. Been around for a while. I've been around for a while. And the first picture in your slides, Dr. Bozeman, did you take that picture? Or was that someone else? Without my knowledge, that was a picture that we didn't know was being taken, but it shows I've been around for a while. But I will say that only to say it is my honor to be part of this process. As we've started and are working through it, I don't know that my charge was low, but I feel totally reinvigorated through this process for a number of reasons. So I would like to thank Dr. Bozeman first for his leadership in this as well. We seem to talk almost on a daily basis about things. Just as Evan said, we have meetings every other week with Haller and Yoon, and CSO, Taylor Brothers, and Pepper Construction are all involved. But the team is meeting every week and having discussions all the time. So we've toured many schools in Carmel, Hamilton Southeastern, Plainfield, some virtual and in-person tours as well. Our team has been meeting in Zoom and in person with Haller and Yoon and the whole team. I think when we get together, there's upwards of 30 people probably in the meetings, and I can assure you the process has been extremely collaborative. Haller and Yoon and CSO have continued to ask for feedback throughout the process. I wouldn't say I was surprised, but one of the biggest points that I would like to emphasize is just the teacher voice in this process. We are sent lengthy documents continually and asking for feedback throughout it. So I can tell you the process has been great, and our new building is going to be safe, it's going to be efficient, it's going to be unique, and it's going to be collaborative. And the team is working hard to make that happen. I want to shout out to the teachers. The teacher voice in this process has been incredible. Every group is asking teachers what they think. The picture in the beginning was not a setup. It was Eric Haller from Haller and Yoon working us through a neighborhood, a small section of the floor plan, and then working out from that. So the team, the design team teacher members have put in countless hours already, volunteering hours to this process. So I wanted to recognize those folks as well. Suzanne Dean, Kate Edgren, Cassidy Hall, and Jennifer Rishavy for their work.
Thank you. And I mentioned also that Casey's out of town. Similarly with Smith Elementary, and that's a full renovation. Casey's design team, I think she has about 9 or 10 folks on her team, well represented, that they're very much involved in the process there now as well. Our priorities are to build and renovate safe learning environments that are done so, that are fiscally responsible. That keeps coming up in all of our conversations, just so you're aware. It's very important to us, and it's a priority of ours. And we will have on your agenda, and I know you're aware that there are 2 sessions coming up. August 19th, a public work session to where we will meet with you. We'll have the architects here and start looking very specifically at the building options that we have in terms of renovation and design for the 12th Elementary to get feedback and input from the board and from the public, essentially. August 19th for Smith and C4 with Dr. Hack and his team. And then November 11th would be for the new elementary and Northside Middle School. These bond issue estimates, you've seen this before, but of the phase 1 projects, our estimates are nearly half of the entire project. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner, but those are total cost estimates and then the bond issue estimates that we've projected over the next 3 years. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
When you say total cost, I was going to ask if we have all the financing cost estimates added into the total costs. I know we continue to show the $306 million bond number, but we never show the financing costs.
That's not on that slide, Mr. Major, but it will be in the documents at the next board meeting.
Okay.
It's included in the public documents for the second approval group.
Okay, thank you.
And I'll just add, Dr. Bozeman, can you go back to that last slide real quick, please? Thank you. It just seems counterintuitive. We have for phase 1 projects, the cost of those projects is $147,439,000, but we're only issuing bonds for the $44,100,000 this round. Basically because interest rates are so high right now, we're trying to finance the lowest amount possible. We'll look at it again next year and decide when we issue the next group of bonds, may or may not adopt that next dollar amount in the second column of the 50.6 million, or do more or less depending on the financial situation at that time.
So how do these numbers compare to the prior estimates? Are they in line, or has there been adjustments?
They are. They've remained in line. We are holding true to the budgets. Okay. We're holding ourselves true to those budgets. It's painful, isn't it, Mr. Sprong and Mr. Burden back there?
They and their team get weekly reminders of budget restrictions.
The larger the design team is, the more wishes there are on the wish list.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I joke about the budget, but we talk about it often. It's important because we don't want to waste time, and we don't want to design, especially with the 12th Elementary, design something that's just not attainable, not fiscally wise and responsible. And so we do. I joke about that, but we do have conversations often about making sure that we're maintaining budget. Other questions or of these 2 that can answer at this time? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm actually going to apologize. Some people may have noticed I stepped away and there's inclement weather and I had a stranded child that popped up. And so anyway, stranded child is now not stranded by someone else. I wanted to also back up. When we did board member reports, I selfishly gave my school board member report and left the rest of my team out, which was pointed out to me by Mr. Grimes. So I'm going to back up in the agenda and just go through the row as I normally do and see if anybody else has school board member reports to share.
I do not have any this time.
Okay, thank you.
Neither do I.
Okay.
Just a couple quick things from the school foundation. Via the executive director, Nicole Cunningham. So far this year in the 24 campaign, approaching $10,000 has been raised for unrestricted funds. Mark your calendar date. The school foundation just received a grant for the Wizards game, which is a change this school year. It will be Sunday, November 10th at East, and tickets probably on sale in the next month and a half, 2 months. Sunday, November 10th at East, the Wizards. Event space has been booked at Hotel Indigo for another fundraising event, an 80s, 90s bash in March of 2025. And then lastly, welcome back to Dale on the trail, who's marching through parts of the AT, has raised nearly $5,000 for Success in Sight for BCSC students. So thank you, Dale.
Mr. Stennon, nothing. Mr. Major?
No updates from the Health Trust. Updates for downtown for the Redevelopment Commission. They had a meeting tonight, and there's some new downtown improvement grants that they're going to be offering to businesses looking at improving their outdoor facades or some structural internal needs. There are, I think, 8 EV charging stations that they're going to be working to install over the next several months. There's Downtown 2030 project is working through urban planning RFP that should go out in the coming weeks. It'll take about 8 to 10 weeks after that. So they've got several places that they're looking at that might be able to support that. The Riverfront project, they're still hoping to get through into next summer and get a start date. You'll notice downtown that around 2nd Street, there's been some cones and some work being done. That work will probably go on for about 2 years. And then there's some other stuff that they're just not moving very far with right now, but they've got numerous projects that are underway or in progress. So,
Thank you. Mr. Bryant? Nope. Okay. I think we're caught up to the agenda now. Next on the list, I believe, is public comments. So I'm just going to remind everybody of our process for public comments. If you wish to speak at any board meeting, there's always a blue sheet on the table when you walk in. I'm holding it now, and you just sign up on that. I will call your name to the podium. Everyone gets 3 minutes. There is a clock right there that you'll be able to see from the podium, and then I'll ask you to end your comments when that time is up. Please do not refer to any specific people during your comments. Keep things general. It's not a back and forth conversation, so we will take your input. There won't be a conversation or anything offered from the board to the presenters today. You can pass if your intended point has been made, and you can just let me know that when I call your name. I think that's it. Okay, so first on the list, I have Mr. Mark Niemiller.
Mark Niemiller, South Gladstone Avenue, and I'd like to add some support for the complaint against the book Push. There's been a couple of recent newspaper articles in support of keeping Push in Columbus East High School Library, but I'd like to point out that both articles were devoid of any of the book's many obscene texts, even though those texts make up the central issue. Of course, the reason for these omissions is obvious. The Republic newspaper does not consider that kind of language appropriate for this community and will not publish it. Yet some school officials want to retain Push in the school library for minors to read freely. So it looks like we have a bizarre situation where a particular content is deemed too obscene for adults in public, but okay for minors in public school. Somehow BCSC is reasoning that community standards for adults, as represented by the local newspaper, don't apply to our community's children. That somehow what's not okay for adults is okay for children. School officials get away with this backward logic by way of the part of the Miller test in the Indiana Code that gives an exemption to schools for educational value. According to the law, any amount and degree of obscenity is okay for children as long as the book has an educational context. Well, obviously, the Republic newspaper ignores Indiana's educational context exemption. Even though their newspaper articles are for the purpose of education, they would rather maintain community standards. But BCSC is so far clinging to the legal excuse so they can have a much lower standard, despite that this book clearly violates local community standards for adults and for education. This book not only violates community standards, it violates the traditional discretionary method for educating children, to do it without exposing them to harsh adult-rated realities. It's the same reason parents don't traditionally give their children the facts of life talk, using profane and vulgar street slang to refer to human reproduction or genitals or sex acts. In my opinion, this isn't about adhering to the minimum legal standard. This is about adhering to local community standards. Aren't public schools supposed to do that? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Niemoller. Next, I have Mr. Richard Safford.
Hello, Richard Safford. I have grandchildren in BCSC, and through them and others, I'm known as Papa for a whole lot of your students. That's the advantage of age. I have been a caseworker for a children's home, a psychiatric social worker, and I'm retired as a Presbyterian minister. I have had many occasions to know children who have suffered from incest and other violent attacks. I encourage this board to pay attention to the committee that you have established, to those who have actually read these books, this one in particular, an award-winning book, from beginning to end. And I encourage, in the time that y'all have going forward, to read this book as well. The children that I've counseled did not need a sanitized description, a sanitized reality to understand what had happened to them. This book is difficult. It's intentionally difficult because children need to know that they're not the only ones this has happened to. I applaud the work that you do and the system that you have set into place for reviewing these books. Not just this one, but all the other books that will speak to our children about the realities that many of them are facing today and many of others will face in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Safford. Mr. Bob Schumacher.
Is it on? Are we on? Hi, I'm Bob Schumacher, new to your community within the past year. Very happy to be here, and I'm enjoying the nice open meeting that you guys are having. Thank you very much. I am a retired pediatrician, a retired professor of pediatrics, father, and I want to say a few things. And no, I have not read the book. I only heard about this issue a few hours ago that it was going to be on the agenda tonight. In general, books are tough. Good books are tougher. Really great books are extremely tough, all right? Books can have war, slavery, abuse, misogyny, racism. They can be full of very, very tough subjects. If they teach a good lesson, they're eminently worthwhile. Even if they just make you think, they are more than worthwhile. The book that has all of the things I mentioned is one of the greatest teaching books ever. That, of course, would be the Holy Bible. All right? That stuff needs to be there. Our teachers need to be ready to discuss it if the children have questions, and our parents need to know that it's there. And maybe we can give them some advice about why this subject is important and why it is in our library so that they can have those discussions. I think that's great. There is almost nothing that would ever be in a school library that would not be worthy of a good discussion between a parent and a child. But to not have it be there is the ultimate censorship. And we need to think long and hard about that, especially when we have an award-winning book that has been praised by so many, but is in fact extremely tough to read. I get it. There's lots of things that are tough to read. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Grace Patchett.
Hi there, my name is Grace Patchett. First of all, I just want to state, while I did not go to Bartholomew County School Corporations, I do hope to, live here long enough to have kids to go to this school corporation. And when I was growing up in school, there were many things that I was not taught by my parents that I had to turn to a very trusted librarian who did help me learn the things that my ultra-conservative parents would not allow me to learn. And it was through those resources that I was able to have tough conversations with my own parents and to help expand their own knowledge, as it is a two-way street between a parent and a child and a teacher to figure out what it is that our world looks like. I personally have read Push, and it was a book that was really eye-opening to me, and later on in my life I would realize was a lot more common of a problem than when I was reading the book that it was led to be. I don't have too much more to say other than just I think it's incredibly important to remember the words of our own Hoosier native author, Kurt Vonnegut, that he hates to see that Americans are taught to fear some books and some ideas as though they are diseases. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Patchett. Mr. Kermit Key.
Hello once again. Thank you all for your time. I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible. That's why I write this stuff down. Need me to get closer or speak louder? Okay. I'll go ahead and begin. Everyone is sick and tired of talking about book bans. Yet here we are again talking about book bans. It's like in 2022 when we had two school board candidates telling us they didn't want a book ban, but once they were on the board, they both filed complaints to have 2 books banned. It's deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra once said. This complaint isn't from a candidate, but like the last one that reached the board, it was filed by someone that repeatedly stated online that they have never read the book. Like the previous complaint, their knowledge of its contents seems to come from review sites like Booklooks, which counts potty words and offensive paragraphs without any context other than page number. That's really weird since the state test for obscenity requires the work to be taken as a whole. In fact, it states that the average person applying contemporary community standards must find that the dominant theme of the matter or performance taken as a whole appeals to the prurient interest in sex. There alone, I would take pause. Considering the story of an illiterate 16-year-old raped by her father, beaten by her mother, and ignored by the authorities as appealing to prurient interest in sex is either ludicrous or itself obscene. It's the exact opposite of grooming. In fact, the dominant theme is liberation through education. We follow her journey of education and enlightenment as she learns to write about her life and how to make it her own. She is a victim while she remains ignorant, but through education, she gains autonomy and freedom. And once again, that is what we really need to be discussing here today: willful ignorance. In law, willful ignorance is when a person seeks to avoid civil or criminal liability for a wrongful act by intentionally keeping themselves unaware of facts that would render them liable or implicated. The person that filed this complaint chose to maintain their own uninformed opinion rather than educate themselves. They chose to listen to the misinformation and rhetoric that upheld their preconceived ideas. Then they chose to force their illiterate views on the rest of the community, making us the responsible adults in the room. The state law took effect 1 year ago, and the new policy was adopted last December. But less than 6 months later, we have new school board candidates asking for further compromises while ignoring questions about book bans. Like the person that filed this complaint, they seem deliberately naive of what has transpired over the last 2 years as they dodge simple questions about book bans. Their persistent lack of awareness almost guarantees that we will be discussing more book bans for the foreseeable future. While they talk about the reading ability of our students, perhaps they could display some of their own before putting the rest of us through another exhibition of stubborn stupidity. We're all quite sick of that.
Thank you, Mr. Key. Okay, that is the end of our public comments for tonight. Next on the agenda, Dr. Phillips.
Thank you, Mrs. Wielden. At this time, we request approval of the minutes of the regular school board meeting from June 10th of 2024.
I move that we approve the minutes of the regular school board meeting as presented by Dr. Phillips.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Grimes and Mr. Schultz. All those in favor of approve, any discussion or questions from the team? Okay. Okay, all those in favor of approving minutes from school board meeting on June 10th, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes.
Thank you. Under new business this evening, we have the normal consent agenda of supplemental contracts, field trips, and professional leaves, as well as school fundraisers. And the claims and payroll for the time period are reflected on the screen in front of you. I did note that the pre-run report includes the semi-annual debt payments, and so the larger amount for that pre-run is because we paid those debt payments before June 30th. And then we have some additional not recurring items for you. 2 resolutions related to the 2024 lease rental bonds. Those are a resolution determining the need for the projects and a resolution improving the form of the lease. If these seem repetitive to you, it's because you also approved these as part of the larger project. But again, each year as we issue these bonds, we will have to go back and request approval for those again. We also have permission to terminate the agreement with Neola to manage our board policy platform, as well as update us annually. That's letter E. Letter F is a replacement for that by engaging with an Indiana-based law firm, Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, to do a comprehensive policy review of all of our policies over the next approximately year and a half, resulting in a new policy, simplified policy structure that's easy for the public and for others to process and read. The cost for that total review is about $16,000 over that 2-year period. And then Church would also, as new legislation is passed by the state and at the federal level, would bring us our regular updates for any policy revisions. That will result in somewhere between 10 and 20 new policies being, not new policies, I apologize, policies being reviewed and approved each meeting for the next year and a half or so. We'll go over that process at the next board meeting in some detail. Letter E is just the receipt of the CRH Foundation giving us funding to, as a pass-through organization, to fund family access to online mental health resources. at the website parentguidance.org. This is a county-wide grant that allows any child and parent with their family to access these resources, even if they're not a BCSC family. So a homeschooled family or private school family could access those resources. It's part of the Mental Health Matters initiative. BCSC is just serving as the pass-through entity for that. And that's a $90,000 grant for 2 years, $45,000 for each year of access, and that covers 100% of the cost for that period.
So I have a question. I've got 3 E's. I think resolution for lease bond I have as E. I think you should permission to terminate as E, and the approval of CRH as E.
On our agenda,
Yeah, they're correct on our agenda.
Thank you. That's my mistake on the slide deck.
Do we want to just go off the agenda?
Please use the agenda. D is claims and payroll. E is the lease rental bond resolutions. F is terminating Neola. G is the Churchill and Antrim engagement. And then that makes H the CRH grant approval.
Perfect.
Copy and paste sometimes comes back to bite you.
You're good. I was just
Newbie. It's like we got a new superintendent or something.
So we request approval of the new business items 8A through 8H.
It doesn't matter to me how you do this. You can pull it out or not, but to be consistent with what I've done in the past, because I don't agree we need a new elementary school, you can either pull E out or I'll vote no for everything. Doesn't matter to me which way you do it.
I'd just break E out.
Okay. So can you make a motion for that if you wouldn't mind, or just approval, a motion to approve A through D and F through H?
Yeah, I'd like to move to approve items A through D and F, G, and H.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Major. Do I have a
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz. All those, any discussion on A through D or F through H?
I've got a couple quick questions in regards to policy, Dr. Phillips. So again, kind of the rough goal to get transitioned over to the new is the end of calendar year 25, correct?
Correct.
Okay, and so the swap from Neola over to Church, Hiddle, and Antrim, I know there's, a decent amount up front, but once that transition is complete, how does that yearly update, how does that compare to what Neola's cost was on a yearly basis?
It's a little bit lower of a cost, and they also, they because they're Indiana-based, the timing of those will follow when Indiana passes legislation as opposed to a broader national pattern. So they'll wait until the legislative session is over, wait until all of the regulatory agencies have done their review, and then come to us with an update. So the timing is better and the cost is a little lower.
And again, it's my understanding, I think, this will streamline things and eliminate a lot of redundancies as well, correct?
Correct. The example that they provide when we talked to them the first time was the anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy, which is currently in somewhere between 12 and 14 Neola policies, and it'll be replaced by one policy called the anti-harassment and anti-discrimination policy. So simplification as opposed to duplication and complexity.
Thank you.
So I think it's fair to say we're going to see a lot more policies because we're spring cleaning or restructuring, as it were, if this gets approved. But after that,
in the end, there'll be a fewer number of policies, but we will spend a significant amount of time on them in the next year and a half or so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I have a motion and a second for items 8A through D and F through H. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, please say nay. Motion passes 7-0.
I would like to make a motion that we approve item 8E.
Thank you, Mr. Nellen.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bryant. Any discussion on item 8E?
Dr. Phillips, will the terms of agreements, are they already made public online through the board docs as well for this lease?
All of the documents for this evening are online and accessible, and then the ones for it'll be the August 19th meeting is the next steps, and those will also be on there early for review.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips. Okay. All those in favor of approving item 8E, resolution for the 2024 lease bond rental, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Thank you. Vote passes 6-1.
Thank you. And if you haven't had a chance to hear her speak, well, no, she came to the board meeting if everyone was here. So for the first time tonight, the HR recommendations will come from Dr. Stahlbaum.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, President Wheeldon, Dr. Phillips, and members of the Board of School Trustees. The 24 human resources recommendations for this retirement, 10 resignations, 12 appointments, and 1 leave of absence. I request that you please approve the personnel recommendations as presented in the board packet.
I move that we approve the human resource recommendations as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Schultz and Mr. Major. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. Motion passes. Can't talk. Do we have any additional
There are no
items tonight?
additional at this time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, board input and review. I'll start with the other side. Mr. Bryant, can you say anything to close this out tonight?
I like this new setup. I do. I get to see everybody. Yeah. Other than that, I have nothing. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to congratulate the track and field and tennis stars that we have, both Karis and Catherine, in their state participation in championship runs. I wanted to congratulate Dr. Phillips and Dr. Stahlbaum in supporting their first board meeting tonight. I wanted to offer some hope that everybody is enjoying their summer so far, and just remind them that school will be back in session before we know it, and make sure everybody keeps having fun out there. And in light of the events recently, I wanted to just pray for the safety of all political candidates in the coming election cycle. May they be watched over in their travels and in speaking events, and may people find a way to not use violence and to use their voice.
Mr. Jenner?
Like Mr. Major, Mr. Bryan, I'd like to congratulate our student athletes that we recognize tonight. The achievements are really pretty amazing. Appreciate all the work that went into making the board docs platform transition occur for this meeting, and going forward, I think it'll be a big improvement. Appreciate the work that went into improving the student enrollment process. That seems like a large change for the better. And then last but not least, I'd like to congratulate, thank, applaud all those folks that are involved in the work in Vision 2030, the new school buildings, the new classrooms, the new spaces for education. The design work that they're a part of, I think will really make a big difference for us in the years to come. So thank them all.
Thank you, Mr. Jenner. Similarly, I say this at work all the time, continuous improvement beats delayed perfection any day. I like to move things a little by little, and there are lots of little improvements that we saw here tonight, which I appreciate. It's a sign of a healthy organization, and we're constantly pushing ourselves. So anyway, thanks to the team that makes this happen. I know Dr. Phillips has a good team behind him for all of those things.
Thank you to the stakeholders that were here and took the time to be here tonight and offer public comment. Much appreciated. Also, much appreciation for the CRH Foundation grant that was approved to help BCSC families in terms of addressing mental health concerns, and perhaps arguably now or even more than ever is such a thing needed. And then lastly, thank you to Dr. Phillips for a very smooth and efficient first meeting. Lots of new, exciting things, I think. You know, the shift to board docs, the transition in board policy, the new enrollment procedure that was presented, and then, and to echo this, the new configuration here, very, very good. Thank you.
Yeah, similar sentiment on congratulating to the athletes. I also want to thank Dr. Bozeman and all the teams involved on getting Envision 2030. It's a monumental task to get all these things coordinated, and I know it's running like an orchestra right now, so doing great. I also want to echo, I like the setup. I like the change to board docs. I know I've been kind of one calling for sharing stuff before we talk so that the folks can give educated advice to us and their feedback, and I like the board docs platform and being able to deliver on that, and thank the speakers for being respectful and providing input and so that we can make an educated decision. I do have 2 call outs that I think if we can consider in the future is if we're going to run through policies. I know a lot of our other boards, as we were at the ISBA, all of them have policy subcommittees as a member of the board to at least get ahead of some of that. So that may be something that we want to consider to run in tandem if we're going to do a mass review. And then the other one that's highly concerning to me is the graduation requirements change. I'd like to understand how that's going to impact. I'm not got the warm and fuzzies about the changes, honestly. So if we could figure out what we can do to mitigate the risk that I'm seeing other school systems call out, I think that's good. And then also getting ahead of what our risks are for our iLearn for 3rd graders and what's the mitigation plan ahead of the fall enrollment. So I think those are the kind of 3 call-outs that I have.
So I want to echo the appreciation of the new board setup. It is nice to see the people that I'm having conversation with. And the board docs, I think that's going to be good for us, but also good for the public. I really appreciate that part, to echo what Logan said. Also, I think that we can say this publicly. Congratulations to our board president for being named by the Chamber of Commerce, I don't know if I'll get this correct, but as one of the outstanding women in leadership in our community, and is well deserved. And finally, I have to do a few thank yous. So my hike was a mixture of failures and successes. I will not dwell on the failures. If you want to hear about them, you can talk to me. But I do want to thank Nicole Cunningham with the School Foundation for helping a lot to get the word out. I want to thank 2 North graduates and former students, Brian Pearson and Richard Liu, who went with me for the first 5 days, and I literally don't think I could have done it without them. I want to thank Dr. Brad Coors, who is also a former student, an optometrist in town, and an East graduate, who not only donated, but he's going to donate his time and resources to help supply eyeglasses to kids that need it. I think there are other optometrists that are helping, that will help also, but I know he stepped up to volunteer. I want to thank the 90 people who donated, and we're actually at $4,900, so I haven't given up yet, because if anyone is still interested, I have the information here. It would be nice to hit 5,000. Most of the money is going to go towards supplying eyeglasses to kids that need it, and also some will go to help students who dual credit tuition that can't afford it. I guess the biggest thank you is to my wife, because I was ready to quit the trail and she said, no, you can't do that. So I couldn't have done it without her. So thank you.
Thank you, Dale. Okay.
Ms. Wielden, could I add a couple of notes in there as well?
Of course.
So I want to echo the congratulations to you for being named one of the women in leadership. And also recognize it's been a few weeks ago now, but our own Angie Kirkham and Dr. Laura Hack were named as the Women to Watch in Leadership by the Republic a few weeks ago, and were recognized at a ceremony. And then also, I'm waiting for them to tell me stop with the changes already. So, team, thank you for all your support. And they just came in a week ago Friday, and I actually sent them pictures and said, hey, I moved the whole room around. Said, let me know what you think. And so then they all had to scramble and react to my changes. So thanks to them for being patient with us. And I'm glad that you appreciate the setup, because they worked hard on it. Also want to point out a new representative in the room with us tonight that you may not have met. Ms. Corinne Sandusky is sitting over there next to Sherry, who you're very familiar with. But you've seen Corinne's name on a lot of emails lately, but she's backing up Sherry and helping with a lot of these projects, including the policy work. So you'll see a lot more of her. So thank you, Corinne, for coming this evening. And then the last thing, I just want to note that when you drive around in the summer here, we had lots of summer school activities happen. When you drive around our community in the summer, there are students and staff members everywhere in this community, with the exception of the 1 week when the whole place disappears on moratorium week. Everywhere in this community working hard. Mr. Sluter, you see his kids everywhere running out there in town. But I'll point out a new program that was in place only for its second year this summer that had 100 students up at IUC, and several of our staff members worked volunteering and working for them in this iCivics camp that just had kids learning how to engage in your community. Our last of the core values up there around being civic-minded citizens. 100 of our kids were up there with a lot of adults helping them learn that. So just want to call that one out as a special thing that happened just the second year this year, and that's at no cost to students as well. So it was a great camp to see. Next year I'll send out the note because they do a showcase at the end where they show off the work that they did, and I'll send it to the board next year so you can make sure and get that on your calendars.
Thank you, Dr. Phillips.
Oh, and August 7th is the first day of school, kids. So everyone watching at home, August 7th is the first day for students. We can't have this meeting and not point that out. Right?
That is true. That is true. Okay, upcoming meetings in addition to the first day of school. We have our regular board meeting in this room on August 5th at 6:30 p.m. The Parkside Elementary ribbon cutting is at 3:30 p.m. on the same day. So that's open to the public. Anybody come in and see our first big renovations. Executive sessions, that's for board members only. In between those two items, so at 5:15, board members will need to be back here for an executive session. And then we have a public work session on August 19th to go through some of the more details Dr. Bozeman mentioned on Envision 2030 projects. Busy August. Okay. Nothing else? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.